create space with a very simple, easy to follow framework for time blocking either your days or your calendar with 4 distinct types of days. What are those days, Audrey?
Yeah, so we have race days, rest days, pace days, and detox days.
Race days, rest days, pace days, and detox days. And what I want to do is let's break each one of these down to provide
Yep.
some context as to how each one of these different types of days or periods of time, because they could be blocked on a calendar. You might not have a
Mhm.
full day dedicated to a race day, but you could have a half day
Yeah.
dedicated to a race day. Let's start there. And I want to start with race days because it is where the greatest progress is gained. But I often question how many people spend time racing instead of just pacing.
That's what I was gonna say too. I think race days, those are the days where really you create the most value, but it's easy, and I've been guilty of this too, is spending too many days having race days. So these are days where you are really focused on your unique ability, your growth ability, where are you creating the greatest value. I think of it as, you're getting in a flow state.
Mhm.
And so there are no distractions, no meetings. You are really in like full attention, you're in the zone, and you're really just focusing on maybe the top one or two, maybe three things that you really need to get done that day to move the ball forward, making those big, leaps and progress. I know both of us have really tried so far this year and 2024 to block these days on the calendar and try to get one or two a week. And I know we joke because, on these days we won't have meetings with anybody. You and I will barely connect. And it's like, it was so great not talking to you yesterday.
I was about to say, I don't want to see you on a
No,
race day.
no,
And that's with all due love and
of course.
respect, because like if we don't create that space to race, I think that's where the friction and the conflict and the tension begin to creep in. I think of one specific financial brand leader who I have been coaching on their digital growth journey. And she sent an email about just the overwhelm of meetings and not
Oh, yeah.
feeling like she can ever get anything done. And that's where the greatest burnout begins to creep in, because it's the burnout happens in the mind. The work that we are doing, it's more mental than it is physical, but the mental will impact the physical state of being. And to your point about flow, I was just reconnecting with a friend of mine, Max Trailer,
Mm.
and he was saying that he has a collaboration he's working on and was inspired, had some thoughts, and 8 hours of time passed by, and he made a tremendous amount of progress on this particular initiative. That's flow. And I'm just curious, how many people watching or listening have either A, entered into a period of flow to understand what that feels like, or maybe they've never experienced flow to begin. You've experienced flow. So maybe I think
Yeah.
some more contextual perspective here, because flow is what leads to exponential growth.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, getting in that flow state, it is. I mean, it is where the hours feel like minutes, high energy. It gives a lot of dopamine. I mean, you're like on a high because you're doing what your unique your unique ability is. It's like what is it in EOS, the EOS model? You you like it, you get it, you want it, you're good at it.
Yes.
And I know, and this,
GWC, get it, want it, and I think the capability to do it.
Yeah. And I'm probably going to exhaust you just by saying this, but not too long ago, I was working on creating some systems and processes because we're bringing on new team members. And so I needed to go through and really document step by step a lot of our different internal systems. And I'm telling you, I could do it all day. Like, just leave me alone at my desk, turn my music on, and the day is gone. And I love it and I feel accomplished. I get energy out of it. I made a lot of growth. It was things that were created that can last, for the long term. For me, that's a perfect example of me getting in my flow state on a race day.
Yes.
Now, for you, not so much.
No, that's more of like I'd call pace day activities,
Right.
because my flow is going to come from content, curriculum, uh, coaching, making connections, quick starting. Essentially, if we're going to
Hmm.
fall into the Colby vernaculum, I pulled this up. This is from Medical News Today. The term flow state, quote, describes a mental state in which a person is completely focused on a single task or activity. They are directing all of their attention towards the task, and they do not experience many thoughts about themselves or their performance. Some people refer this to informally being in the zone.
Yes.
And the reason it's so important, particularly when we're thinking about leadership here, come back to this definition. They're focused on a single task. They're directing all of their attention towards the task. How easy is it to now get pulled off focus with dings and bings and buzzes and inboxes, all of these other elements that would not allow us to enter into this hyper performance state where we achieve exponential growth. But you touched on something too, the dopamine, the
Hmm.
feel good chemical, and you feel good about what you're doing and the
Hmm.
progress that you're making. Now, on the flip side of the spectrum, you've got these race days. It's also important to think about, okay, well, after you have run a race, whether it's a sprint or a 5K or a half marathon, Ironman, you have to rest and you have to create time to just recover. What's a race day here?
Rest
A
day.
rest day. What is a rest day here?
I mean, it's exactly what it is. You're resting, you're not doing anything. As far as your day to day, your tasks, you're giving yourself room to just think, giving yourself room for thought. And that's something that came out of a book I just read,
Mm,
Don't Believe Everything You Think, and how it's so important to give yourself room for thought. Um, without the rest days, you cannot operate at 100% during your race and pace days.
mhm.
And you might think that you're being an all star and a hero because you're working through, you're not resting. But it's gonna end up costing you. And I have quite a bit of personal experience there. When you don't honor those rest days. I mean, discipline. You really have to be disciplined. It's easy to discipline yourself to like do things and to make progress and to go out and to, exercise or whatever. It is also really hard to discipline yourself to just stop, to just rest. Give yourself permission to just shut everything down. That is where you're going to end up saving your mental energy, but you're also giving yourself room for thought because you're shutting down. And I think you can probably elaborate on that a little bit more, but it's these moments when you're not doing where you have these natural, wonderful
Oh
thoughts.
my gosh. I think about whenever I had a couple of race days in Costa Rica back
Hmm.
in 20, it was the fall of 2018. And it was almost like I got a download to write Banking on Digital Growth. Like it became 100% clear of the framework, the structure. Now there was a lot of gaps that had to be filled in, but there's a tremendous amount of creative energy that came from resting. Same
Yeah.
thing is true for banking on change. Another extended rest day period, was going on a run in Galveston. We were doing a little staycation with the family, and it just boom hit me once again. Like, wow, completely inspired by this new type of thinking that would have not been possible had I not created the space and time to just to rest, to recover. And
Yeah.
there's some research that comes out of sports and performance psychology that, and I'm going to quote Dr. Mustafa Sakar here, quote, as humans, we often wait until we are at 5% energy to recharge, but we would never wait until our phone is at 5% battery
Right.
power to recharge it.
Yeah. Or your gas tank in your car.
Well,
Well, actually, I'm guilty of that.
but say, I know you, and I know how you like to push it, and I know
I do.
myself, and I'm like, when that light goes off and it says fuel empty, I know I have at least another 15 or 20
Yeah.
miles to eke out of that. But
But it's bit me in the butt though.
that's right.
I learned my lesson.
That's right. And just like, you know, I know that I've been encouraging you at certain times when I observe just certain patterns or behaviors
Yeah.
that I'm like, just you got to take a you got to take a rest day here. You got to
Yeah, and
rest.
I think that's where leadership and accountability comes in. And I think I'll be guilty. I mean, I am guilty of for a long time, I thought that I was just working harder. And I thought it was a reflection of just my drive and my desire to just go and get shit done and move. But I have started to see more and more, and you've mirrored this for me too,
Mm.
is acknowledging the need for rest and being confident enough to say, I need a rest day or I'm taking a rest day.